And we're going to go ahead and get started. If everybody will stand, please.
Let's bow our heads for a moment of silence. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. All right, I want to say thanks to everyone that chipped in this school year for the setup and operation of our meetings. It doesn't go unnoticed, and these meetings can't happen without the support of all of you that chipped in over the years, or over this year. And as chairman of the Cleveland City Schools Board of Education, I'm committed to running an orderly meeting and efficient meeting. I'm going to treat everyone with respect, and particularly for board members, they will be provided an equal voice for all matters, and they should communicate through the director of schools for addressing his staff. A couple reminders we want to put out here for you, the parents and the community. Board of Education policies can be found on the Cleveland City Schools website at clevelandschools.org. There you click on menu and select Policy Manual under the Board of Education section. Our meetings are not public forums. However, the board has made accommodations for a city resident, Cleveland City Schools employee, or parent guardian of a Cleveland City Schools student to address the board. And there's two ways you can do that. You can do that through board policy found, or it's explained in board policy 1.404, which includes two options. Those options being appearing before the board via pre-meeting request, and then addressing the board on agenda items via same-day request. All right. And so today we have a couple of requests for public comments, and all right, for this particular request, it is not an agenda item, so we will not be allowing for public comment today. However, the person that requests comment can speak at our board meeting in June, and simply needs to reach out to the office of the director of schools and put an official request for that. All right. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. And do we have any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to request that we pull policy 6.314 that's up for second reading and bring that down into the agenda for discussion.
Okay. So we have a request to remove 6.314 from the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, shall be. All right, so let's vote on the actual consent agenda. I want to entertain a motion to accept consent agenda minus policy 6.314.
So moved.
And we have a motion. Do we have a second?
No, second.
We have a second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moves. All right, next on the agenda, we have the director's update, and we're going to turn that over to Dr. Dyer.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone here and those who are watching online. Updates today. Today, May 1st, is National Principal Appreciation Day, and we certainly appreciate the work that all of our principals do. We have some of the best in the business, and they work hard every single day. We have one helping us, or here tonight in person, Bob Pritchard. Thank you for all your work. We'll hear more from him in just a few moments, but I do appreciate the work of our principals. They're a hardworking group, and we certainly could not do the business of school without each and every one of them. Coming up soon is National Teacher Appreciation Week. That's May 8th through the 12th, coming right around the corner. And again, I want to share my appreciation. We'll do a lot more about that during the actual week of May 8th to the 12th, including our annual Chick-fil-A deliveries to all of our school employees and system employees during that week of May 8th to the 12th. Sorry, students, no free Chick-fil-A from us on that one. You're on your own. But for our hardworking employees, we're going to make sure we take care of that. Last Saturday was a really special day. We had Special Olympics held for Bradley and Cleveland City Schools, and that was held at Cleveland Middle School. And I want to thank the staff at Cleveland Middle School who put a lot of extra time and effort into that on Saturday morning. A lot of folks in the community, the Civitans Club, and others were there that morning to help put that on. And that's an event, if you've never had the opportunity to go, I would definitely say that's an event not to miss. That's something that you definitely want to be part of and see. So that's something that I would definitely put on the agenda for next year if you're able to do that. And then Friday before that was Cherry's Jubilee. And that's another great fundraiser put on by folks in our community that help support the arts in all of our schools. And that's something that was a huge event. We had several of our schools submit artwork this year, and it sold at good prices. So that always goes back to help the coffers for the art community, and we're very proud of that as well. TCAP and end of course testing, Michael Kars, has come to an end, or very close to it. So, very close to it. I think the last report I had, see if I remember this, over 29,000 subparts of TCAP tests were given in Cleveland City Schools alone this school year. That's a lot of testing that happens. And it could not happen without dedication, number one, of our students, but also of our staff, our testing coordinators, Michael and his department. That is a huge task to pull off. And there's a lot of moving pieces when you're dealing with state tests and security and all those things that go into that. So I really appreciate our staff, but also our students for taking that and the EOC test so seriously and making sure that happens with as little confusion as possible when it comes to state testing. We also had the opportunity last Thursday to hear from our office about Human Resources Essentials. AIMS, the Association of Independent Municipal Schools, sponsored that. Oak Ridge came down to be part of that with us. Other schools were invited but could not make it that day. But our principals and HR and academic staffs had a great seminar with Battelle for Kids on Human Resources Essentials. A lot of times we do trainings dealing with state standards and curriculum, and HR is one of those things that's not always on the front burner for principals and others to sit in training for. So it was a really good day, and I thought it was time well used. We do have some upcoming events that I want to call to your attention, including CTE Awards Ceremony that's going to be on Thursday, May the 4th. We have graduation on May the 12th. That'll be here before you know it. And also, for our students, just a reminder at this point that no school on May 12th or May 19th due to professional development days that are happening for our staff. And then, last day of school, May 25th. We'll be here before you know it. So a lot of things are happening. We will try our best to keep you updated and abreast of things as they come, of things that you might want to attend. And for the community, check our website. You'll find lots of information there and on social media about things that are happening in our schools. So,
Dr. Dyer, is tomorrow night the senior?
Tomorrow night is the Senior Awards night. That's at 6 p.m. at First Baptist.
Oh, First Baptist.
First Baptist Church. Correct? Okay, making sure.
Dr. Dyer, I think tomorrow do we have the Stewart Auditorium 10 to 10:45? The renaming of the, is that not?
No,
okay.
no, that won't happen for a little bit longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions or comments?
Dr. Dyer didn't mention that at Relay for Life, he ate a lot of ice cream.
Well, that's on the next slide. We'll go down one slide. Had a great night Saturday at Relay for Life. I think there were around 20 of us competing. I did not win. I ate 10 full-size ice cream bars in 5 minutes. I was pretty impressed with that. But the winner ate 21, or winners ate 21. So I definitely, I did not win that competition. And I'm kind of proud of that, actually. So, but I appreciate everyone coming out to support. It was a lot of fun. Raised a lot of good money for Relay for Life and for the American Cancer Society. So appreciate that, and we'll see what happens next year. That's practice. And that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Dyer. All right, so next on the agenda we have a spotlight, and Tag, you're it again.
All right, Bob Pritchard's going to be the spotlight. Well, actually, Bob Pritchard's not the spotlight. Cleveland High School will be the spotlight. Bob Pritchard will be the speaker for that.
Thank you so much for having us. We have so much to be proud of at Cleveland High School. I don't know if y'all seen the latest on social media, but we are ranked #1 large school in the state for all athletics programs. We are #4 overall because our school is so large, we're ranked number one large school for all athletics programs. So, we get to brag a lot about our athletics programs, our academic programs. But tonight we have a group of kids. We had a small group because I don't know if anybody knows, but this time of year for high school is so busy. So we've got kids that are doing tennis tonight. We've got kids that are in musical. We've got show choir kids that are also in the musical. We've got band kids playing in the musical. So there's lots and lots and lots of stuff going on. So I'd like to introduce some of our Model UN students. So if you guys will come on up, I think y'all got something ready for us. It was cool to watch these guys on the first night of Model UN when they first got there. Has anybody heard the phrase like a calf looking at a new gate? Has anybody ever heard that before? Okay, maybe not. So I come from a farming background, and when a calf sees a new gate, they're like, what in the world is this? So watching the evolution of these young kids walk on to the Model UN, and it just kind of hit them in the face a little bit. And watching them from the first night of Model UN of, I don't like this is so stressful, I can't do this, I don't know what I'm doing, to the last night was pretty amazing. Like it was beautiful to watch and beautiful to see. So I think these guys got a couple of things they want to tell you about, and thank you again for having us.
Hello, I'm Kelsey. I'm a senior. So I was in Model UN my freshman year, and COVID hit. I think we were about 2 weeks away from going on our trip. We had our papers almost written or fully written, and COVID hit. As we all remember, I know none of us like hearing about COVID, but it's where we were at. And then sophomore and junior year, we also didn't get to go. So senior year was my first year going, even though I had been in the club for 4 years. And I think there were 4 other ones of us that were also in it freshman year. And leading up to the trip, we were just so excited because there was obviously a lot of built-up anticipation for the trip. And we had so much fun. Everything we did was just so much fun, and definitely memories that we'll keep with us. But like what Mr. Pritchard talked about, the first night in conference, it was a lot. It's very, very, very intense, and I was in one of the biggest committees, so there were probably like at least 150 of us in one room. And we came out of the conference and we were all just talking. We were like, I don't know about this. Like, this is so intense. Like, this is not exactly what we were expecting. Because you don't really know what to expect, especially when you're taking a group of kids who none of us had been before. And it's exactly what Mr. Pritchard said. By the end, by the last conference, we definitely all had a lot of fun and learned a lot. I specifically learned a lot about my topic. So yes, definitely memories that will stay with us for the rest of our lives. And I just wanted to thank y'all for supporting us and our club. So.
Hello, my name is Mario. I'm a sophomore. And first of all, I want to thank Mrs. Pritchard, Ms. Davis, Mr. Pritchard, and Ms. Phillips for this trip. They were wonderful chaperones for this wonderful trip. But something about this trip, it's very fun. I've noticed it's very fun. But I remember that not only don't you have fun, but you learn. I noticed that a lot of students they were scared and all this at the first day, like Mr. Pritchard said at the last committee session. I remember that everybody was having fun, and we all learned a lot because we were all like thinking to ourselves, we are the future. We are the people who are going to represent us. Just looking at Washington, seeing the Washington Monument, seeing the White House, seeing the Capitol, seeing the Supreme Court, seeing so many things there, just shows us how in the future we're going to be those people representing so many people here in the United States. So that was a very deep thing for me to take in. I remember, since this was my first Model United Nations trip, I had a committee assignment where I didn't know my country or position until I got there. So once I got there, that was a cultural shock. I did not expect just debating, yelling at each other. It was extremely fun, and it was a wonderful thing to take in and learn. So yes, and thank y'all for supporting this trip. Thank you.
That is our spotlight. Thank you.
All right. Can we get a picture with the group and the sponsors and Mr. Pritchard? I'll find out. Y'all want to come up here and stand and face that way? That way you can get a big picture of everybody. Great.
Amanda, you're a part of this.
Sorry, I'm out of here.
Came back right.
Thank you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Do we have all the students tell their name and grade?
Yeah, of course.
So, students, tell your name and grade before you leave.
My name is Sandra Davis, and I'm a senior. My name is Willa Metzger, and I'm a junior. My name is Sarah Pritchard, and I'm a junior. My name is Jason Johnson, and I'm a junior. I'm Kelsey Davis, I'm a senior.
I'm Mario Leon, and I'm a sophomore.
Have a good evening.
We have 42 guys, so this is
Yeah, just a little sliver of them all.
what we have.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. So appreciate it. Now we're going to have Tim come in. Jeff knows he's going to do it. Get this question made. Tenure folks, come on and sit down. We won't make everybody stand. First come, first good.
They changed shit. They changed orders.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, so next on the agenda, we have teacher tenure. And turn it over to Dr. Bauer.
We do. This is one of my favorite things that we do all year long. And I know that I say that probably other times as well, but this is really one of my favorite things that we do every year when I'm able to recommend folks for tenure to the school board. And I'm reading from policy 5.117, teacher tenure. It says to attain tenure status, a teacher must 1, meet tenure eligibility requirements, 2, be renewed and recommended by the director of schools, and 3, receive a majority vote of the board. So that's what we're here tonight to do. We have individuals in the room and those that cannot attend tonight for various reasons, the play, sports, things like that that are happening throughout the district. And it's fun to bring them in and have the opportunity to celebrate with them the status of tenure if conferred by the school board. So that's the next step, is really for me to recommend to you as a school board that we confer these folks with tenure, and then we have just a brief little ceremony we'll do once that part is taken care of. So my recommendation is to approve the tenure list as received.
All right, so we have a recommendation on the floor to approve or to vote on the teacher tenure list that you guys previously received. So I want to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion here. We have a second. Second here. All right. So all in favor of moving forward with this list and approving the teacher tenure list, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. We 100%.
All right, congratulations.
All right, as Dr. Dyer said, or as I guess Bob said, there's a lot going on right now. So you have about half of those people here. The rest of them are out doing their job, which is coaching or with a play or something along those lines. So we're going to introduce the folks that are here. You'll see the other folks that will come up on the screen. When your name is called, if you would, please come to me. I'll give you, or Dr. Dyer will give you your certificate. We'll have you go do the handshake line and then go around behind so that you can be seen in the picture. All right. First, from Candies Creek Elementary School, Wendy Thomas. Cleveland High School, Chip Atha. Chip is one of those ones that's doing things for the play tonight. Cleveland High School, Josh Boskin. Cleveland High School, Casey Brown. Cleveland High School, Miles Christian.
They're all involved.
Cleveland High School, Brian DeBoric.
There we go.
Cleveland High School, Anna Hutt. Cleveland High School, Jacqueline Engel. Cleveland High School, Joey Knox. Cleveland High School, Tom Marino. Cleveland High School, Ivan Migovich. Cleveland High School, Melinda Miles. Cleveland High School, David Parker. Cleveland High School, Susan Rodriguez. Cleveland High School, Heather Turner. Cleveland Middle School, Gray Briggs. Cleveland Middle School, Tamara Humphreys. Cleveland Middle School, Erica Rogers. Cleveland Middle School, Ryan Schwartzentruber. E.L. Ross, Jacqueline Brown. Yates Primary, Andrea Lessig. Oh, I got it. Be patient. It was on the picture. Sorry. E.L. Ross, Megan Yates. We didn't miss her. And system-wide, Joel Cilio. All right, you want him to go behind? All right, slide behind your board. Slide behind your board. Thank you.
Are we sitting?
I think we're sitting. Come on, straight across. We'll sit and get out of your way. Picture, and then you're welcome to stay or go, whatever you choose to do.
Actually, you're 10. Number 10.
Oh, that's how many ice cream things I ate the other day, too. That's my number.
One, two, three. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Congratulations. Have a good night. You're welcome to stay or go, whatever you choose to do. So, have a good evening. Watch your step right here. Watch your step right here. Watch your step. Don't want anybody tripping or falling. So, have a good evening. Thank you. That's always fun. It's just a good moment.
I love it. And they were kind of excited.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big deal.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so we're going to move along with our agenda. If it didn't tell you how happy they were, those smiles were bright and wide, and that's awesome.
That's right.
We appreciate our teachers and our other staff as well. All right, so next on the agenda, we have a first reading of policies, and I'm going to turn this over to Jody Riggins, and both Jody and Matthew are our policy committee.
Before we get, where do you want to insert the policy dealing with corporal punishment?
Let's do that at the end of the policy section.
Into the policy section.
Yes.
Okay.
And if we could, I'm sorry, we're going to pull, or I'll request that we pull the ethics one. We had intended to have a meeting and a retreat that we were going to talk about that. We just haven't since the last board meeting. So if we could pull that off so that we can have some discussion before we bring that back up.
Okay, so we have a recommendation to remove 5.611 ethics policy. Is there any discussion around that? Okay, I want to entertain a motion to do that.
I'll move it.
Is there a second? All right, second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 100%. All right, so Jody, you have the floor.
Okay, let me see this. I don't know why. On here we've got 6.400 as first. Up there, 6.500. So we'll go 6.500 quickly. This is a TSBA recommendation that we change line 2627 to match the laws and the regulations that they've cited at the bottom. And this would just say that no restraints except as permitted by laws and regulations. So it's a change that was recommended by TSBA. Everybody feel okay about that? Any concerns or questions or comments? Okay. 6.400. This is another TSBA recommendation. And they recommended that we streamline several policies and put the details of these into procedures. So basically what they recommended is that we just streamline this 6.400, eliminate 6.401, 6.406, and 6.407. And those then will be written as procedures and updated in the administrative handbook.
Can I ask a question about that one? Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, we are updating all the policy or procedural manuals now, and we're going to publish that on our website sometime probably this summer. So that'll be part of what we do. And we're already working toward that end at this point. So that would be absolutely fine.
Any other questions? See, if we go through this, you're going to see 6.401, 6.406, and 6.407 totally blanked out. And they will no longer be policies. They will be procedures.
Yes.
And all of this was also TSBA recommendation. Any questions, concerns, or comments? You okay? All right. We went ahead and we already spoke about 5.611, so we'll go to the one that was moved from consent agenda, 6.314.
Okay.
This one is about corporal punishment, and
So, yeah, I'm the one that suggested pulling this. So the rationale for pulling this was that replacing this policy with one that reflects what's typically practiced in our schools. We have different or alternative approaches to discipline that are spelled out in our code of conduct, and we can eliminate this one and replace it with a policy more in line with what is considered, that is in line with those alternative practices that doesn't involve the corporal punishment.
All right. Questions? Comments?
I understand this a little bit further now, and we had a little bit of discussion before this, because as a newer board member, I don't know how frequently we've used corporal punishment over the past couple of years. And as I understand, we're essentially talking about spanking some of the younger groups in there, as it might be. But to me, personally, it seems like a fairly large shift if we're going from a policy that says we are allowed to do this to now a policy that we aren't. I would like to have a little bit more information on it as to how often has it been used, what grade levels, do the principals feel that this is an impactful deterrent, if nothing else, knowing that that is out there, before we blanketly do away with it at all. That's just my opinion.
Do we want to address that? Are you able to give us some insight on that?
Yes, and we had a meeting with principals a few weeks back and went through this policy and asked them, for their opinions pertaining to corporal punishment, if it's being used, or if they want to see this policy changed. And none of the principals, and all the principals were there that day, none of the principals are currently using corporal punishment as a deterrent or as any kind of system to discourage behavior issues that may be in schools. All of them that we asked that day, and I did ask them tell them they could reach out to me privately if they wanted to share any additional concerns or anything they had. But the unanimous opinion that day was that they agreed that this could be a policy that could be changed and amended, where corporal punishment would not be part of what we do, including city schools. They didn't feel like that's something that's being used. We have to fill out a report every year. Doug Moore fills that out. Doug, what was the last time corporal punishment, do you recall off the top of your head right now, was used including city schools? Last year. So last year it was used by one student, but it's very rare that would happen. And again, all the principals did indicate that they would be okay with moving to a policy of no use of corporal punishment. So that's what I have as far as that goes to share with you. No corporal punishment has been used this year.
Has the threat of corporal punishment been used?
Not that I'm aware of, but I've not asked that directly. I can find out directly from staff if that's the case. I know you may not know that either, because that would be something that would be at a school level, but you want to put the microphone?
Yeah, I can tell you over the past several years, this is how corporal punishment has usually been used, even going back, and I haven't been. 2011 was the last year that I was principal at Ross, and I had used corporal punishment before. A lot of the time, what happens is that's one of those things in which before principals will do that, it's almost where a parent requests it kind of thing. And then that's kind of fallen off quite a bit. It's just kind of we're in a different time. So given the current climate, it's just a place in which principals really don't want to put themselves in that kind of peril, because anything can happen. I mean, you could too low, too high, something like that, and then DCS reports have to be made. So you just don't really put yourself in that type of position anymore to take that kind of to take that kind of chance. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, and that's really the discussion we had with principals that day as well. Is I didn't want to put anything in their head that made them feel like they had to answer one way or the other when we were talking, and we just threw it out there. This is something that we want to look at. How is it used? Do you need this as a tool in your tool belt? And again, the overwhelming response is no. that they did not think this is something that has to be in the board policy for them to be able to use in the school in order to do the things they need to do as far as behavior goes, or issues in schools, or dealing with students or parents or anyone else. So really, it's a call for the board to make based on your desire as far as this one topic goes. This is something that's been debated in school systems across the country, across Tennessee. I know when we opened our new school systems over in the municipal areas, we did not put corporal punishment in. But that's, again, every school system and school board has to debate that and decide for what you feel is best for this community moving forward. So that's really my recommendation, is for you to debate that and think through it. This would be a technical second reading of this policy, since the first reading did go through last time. So if you pass that on second reading, that would, if you change the policy where corporal punishment would not be used, that would be in effect right after you pass that. So there would not be another reading of that, just so you're aware of that fact.
So you're not talking about changing it, you're just talking about...
It would be changed, it would be replaced with this policy. That would eliminate...
This would be the new policy
Yes.
here. Okay.
So what's on the board is just a sample of the way it could read if you chose to go this direction. But you can change anything, of course, the board wants to change or not.
Okay. Jody?
I personally would prefer seeing it changed, but I'm open to listening and...
if they're not using it, I don't see any sense in us keeping it, because none of the principals spoke up to keep it. It's a different day and time. I remember when my kids were in school, it was pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that you want to eliminate the policy altogether or change it?
Change it. I'd say just use that one.
It's also here if you can't read the...
Any more comments?
Carolyn's been a principal probably. I'd like to hear what she thinks.
Well, I must admit that I used it a few times before I used it. I would call the parent and let them know. And on a couple of occasions, I had a dad said, "I'll come up there and observe it, but I want him spanked." But it was with little children, all you had to do was pull the paddle out and they stopped whatever they were doing. But I used it occasionally, not very often, but I did. For small kids, sometimes I guess the threat sometimes even
and I think the wisdom and discernment of our principals, it sounds like, has been great, and that they've not had to use it. Whatever they've said has been sufficient enough to get them wherever they need to go. And I'm curious from them, how often has they... I carry a spoon in my car for my 5-year-old, and all I have to do is pull it out and let him see it, and the attitude changes. But that's my household,
Right.
And so I'd love to have more feedback on whether they think it's a good deterrent, even though they're not using it at that younger level.
In 25 years, I probably spanked maybe 5. And let me tell you, they needed it. I'm of the old school.
I don't know how many principals actually even have a paddle in a school at this point in time. I couldn't tell you that. I don't know that number. But all I can share is what I've been, when we asked the question, they're not using it now. It was used one time last year, but it's not something that they, according to what they shared with me and with us in the room, they do not plan on using that as a deterrent in future situations. But
they use alternate methods of discipline.
We do.
And there's some training I've seen, they're trained on that.
Would we be able to pull up that code of conduct that lists like the RTI and those different discipline measures?
Jody, what were you saying?
Do you remember the number?
Just, that there are alternative methods of discipline. And there's some training that's done on them, and we have them in policy too.
Right. Dr. Edwards pulling it up now, 6.3.
I was finished.
When we get done, I want to go back to one of those former policies.
It did used to be very common. I remember in one of my kids' classes, the whole class got stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Get Jeff to help me out. He was showing there it is, and that's line 4.
Kind of scroll through, the first
Can you come to the
part-
microphone? Dr. Elliott, can you come to the microphone?
On this one, I believe it talks at the very beginning about the different options for alternative disciplinary practices. We utilize items such as what we call restorative practices, RTI square B, intervention programs to address the supports and behavior needs, consequences that are more applicable. As you go down, Cody, as you're scrolling down, misbehaviors level 1, you'll see that there are examples of the different infractions, and then below that, as you keep scrolling there, you'll see disciplinary procedures that could happen and certain options, disciplinary options there that are within that. Currently in that, there is the bullet point, because it is currently in our policy corporal punishment, but you can see the other options that administrators have to choose from, including, again, as it goes down and gets more severe, as you look at level 2, you can see very similar resources and actions that can be. So that's where this corporal punishment is tied to this policy code of conduct. So there are 4 levels of misbehavior too. There you can see there.
So if corporate punishment is listed in here and we're wanting to change the policy, we probably need to make some adjustments to this policy.
Right. So if you make an adjustment here, we'd have to come back in and then adjust it on that policy as well, and anywhere else it may be referenced in our board policy manual. And that's something TSBA could help us with, going through and coming through and find those sightings if you choose to do that.
Dr. Dyer, do you know, I'm putting you on the spot here, but
That's okay.
I think there are some other systems that have, we pulled that sample of no corporal punishment policy from where, Oak Ridge?
That was, I believe, Oak Ridge schools. I can tell you the suburbs around the Memphis area have, at least when I was there, did not have a corporal punishment as part of their discipline plan. I don't think Shelby County Schools did when I was there either. I know when I was a principal, I never used it. It was not something that we had at our option where I was a middle school and high school principal. So, but again, it just depends on the community and where you go, and this is something that the board will have to wrestle with about whether they want to have that as part of your policy as an option for principals or not. It's currently not something, like I said, that we're using, but it is an option that's there by law that we have at our disposal through the state of Tennessee at this point.
Dr. Dyer, what is your recommendation? You talked to lots of systems.
Well, I mean, I'll just base a recommendation based off talking to principals alone. And if you're asking, my direct recommendation would be, just from speaking to principals, that we change the policy to corporal punishment is not used in Cleveland City Schools. But again, that's my recommendation, and you're the board, and you get to act on that policy.
So I don't want to rush this, but I do want to see if there are any more comments, and ask you guys to speak now, and if there's something that you want to talk about regarding this policy.
Well, and to your point of being rushed, to me that's kind of the feeling here. There seems to be a large shift in a cultural space, and with a very little dialogue and very little input. And so if this is not something that's an immediate threat to any of our students by the corporal punishment, then is this something that we have some more questions, we reach out to some of the principals, we ask them, and we bring this back up once we have the revisions to the other policies, if people felt that
more conversation needed to be had. If I'm a lone person in this, then fine, but I'm just asking questions about it.
If I were principal today, I would not use it, even on one grades K1 or 2. I just, I would deal with it in other ways. I just think that it's a policy that it's another culture. And I do think that there are things that happen in schools today that there may not be a disciplinary action that can but I don't think that corporal punishment is the answer. A lot of other, if they're going to do corporal punishment, do it at home. So I would not use it today, even though with K1 and 2 sometimes it can be effective.
Would you use the threat of it?
What?
Would you use the threat of it?
No, not if. I mean, if I say if I said I will have to use my paddle and I didn't have a paddle, then I would not. I would not. The biggest threat that you can do with small children, for the most part, this was, I was there 25 years, is threatening with parents. Do you want me to call your mom? Or your dad? And then that's the biggest threat for small children.
So are there any more comments? All right. So we've talked about that policy, and I think you want to talk about another one before we start.
I wanted to go back. We had some discussion with Jeff earlier about the student psychological services, which was 6.4003, which I think is what we were moving out of one section and putting as a subgroup under the 6.400. And this was part of this discussed when disclosure of confidential information would be allowed by psychiatrists or other counselors in the area. And my comment to Jeff for that discussion was, do we include some provision that family or guardians would be notified if that disclosure was requested by a third party in that language?
I don't think that's the right policy, not sure.
I think it's 406.
406.
It's 406 that they had sent us 6.400.3.
Yeah.
That's the procedure.
That's the draft of a
That's the
procedure.
procedure.
That's a procedure that we're working on to fulfill that. So I don't know if Dr. April would have that because that's in that administrative procedure, but we can work on that and from that administrative group to clean that up, whatever the recommendation that you have on that.
Yes.
So I guess my next question, and as we begin to slide these policies over into procedures, do we as a board then, at what level do we have oversight over those procedures that are no longer policies?
Well, are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay. So when you move from procedures or policies to procedures are administrative in nature. Now we will be posting those to the website so anyone can access those, you, families, students, whatever the case may be. So if you choose to go down this road and delete policy, then that does take it from board approval of what the policy reads to board procedures, which are just administrative in nature based off of what the policy actually reads. So the policies, or procedures that we use and are updating are written by TSBA, and then we update them to meet whatever our board policy. So if you change the board policy away from a word or a verbiage or whatever the TSBA may use, then we make that change internally based on what the policy is that you've approved. But you're right, it's a different type of governance when you do that.
So I'll just add and say as well, if a policy shifts to a procedure and the board feels like we need to shift it back to a policy, we do have the liberty to do that. So just keep that in mind no matter what we're doing regarding this. If you feel like it doesn't work and it needs to be a policy, you have the options to bring it back to be a policy. So.
And I guess my concern with that is we're all busy folks, and as this was emailed to me by Jeff last week, it was Thursday, Friday, before I got a chance to kind of run through all of these things. It will be difficult for us as a board to take that extra time out to start looking at procedures that aren't put in front of us to review every year. And that's what we're saying about student psychological services, student social services, student counseling programs, and student health services. We're taking that annual review by this board and saying we're not going to do that unless we feel that some issue has arisen, by moving it into a procedure rather than a policy.
And I would say for the record on this one, I can go either way. I mean, this is a TSBA recommendation, and whether you choose to act on that in the way that TSBA is, recommending on this particular policy, I don't have a feeling one way or the other. Dr. Elliott, I mean, there's nothing in here that would change what we do anyway, I don't think. So it's really up to you. TSBA does does recommend that you move what you can to procedures at certain times to condense board policy where it's not as as big and thick as some of those manuals used to get. But that's really up to you. It's what you're going back what you're saying. I do hear you on that, and that is something the board needs to consider. But that's nature of the business of how you want to proceed with that.
And keep in mind, these three policies this is the first reading, so we do have a little bit of time to look at things if you want to explore that before the second reading.
I don't see any problems with the student psychological services. It looks really good to me from the experience that I had. I wonder what David Stone, has he looked at that?
Yes, we've gone through these. Nothing was brought out as something that we need to think through from his point of view.
I know that they consulted, an attorney about all this.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, they have. All of these that come vetted are through TSBA's set of attorneys and come through those different recommendation channels.
Yeah.
But it's up to you as a board to decide, what you want to do with these moving forward.
But this is no longer the policy. So they provided us some added kind of provisions in there that would be the new procedure. One of those being when subpoenaed to participate in a judicial proceeding and some other things. And so, again, we're not voting on those. What we're voting on all those is this. And we are leaving it to their wisdom to determine how to implement that into the school system.
Dr. Dyer, did you see any areas in any of those three that are being recommended to shift over to procedure that would conflict with what we are currently doing?
No, I don't think so. I think anything that would be in procedures would be the customary way that we do business now. It's more of a philosophical view of procedures versus policy and how you want to interact with these kind of recommendations that come down. Either way, we're going to keep doing business as we do it now, I think, with our board policy or procedure. Procedure does give us, if we see that there is something that needs to be shifted, a little quicker chance to do that at times, because that does not require a board reading and then a second reading of the board policy to make a shift. So that's one, I guess, positive from our angle. If something comes down that we need to shift within our procedure to make something maybe work a little bit better or read a different way. But I think that also reads into what you were talking about, that you may not be aware of that until a question comes down the road and you read the procedure and pull it up, or we send it to you when you're asked for it, or whatever the case may be. If it is in policy, then if something came up that needs to be changed, it does go through the regular policy readings that you're used to that come down every year. These have been in policy for quite a while. It's really up to you. Yeah, it's up to you whether you want to change that format or not.
Why are we looking to change it from policy to procedure?
It's TSBA recommendation.
Do they say why?
When they go through the policies, I have not talked to TSBA about this one, and we can if you want us to. We'd be glad to go back. It's just a recommendation that comes down from TSBA, and anytime those come, we bring it to the committee, and then you decide as a board how you want to handle that.
We can, though, leave it as policy.
Absolutely.
And make the change that you recommend in that policy.
Yeah, when I initially read this, when you change one word in so many of these things, you change so much. And, as I read through this, I said, okay, well, we're just renumbering these and bringing them to subcategories under 400.
Right.
But as this developed, what we're doing is we as the board only have authority over this now, and all of the other procedures are no longer really under our purview unless we affirmatively take an action to bring it back up before us. And that's, I would feel very comfortable if we just made these changes and kept them as policies, as a subcategory, condensed them down, and they were fine. But you're as a board, as a school board, we have one job, and that's to enact policy here. And we are giving up a lot of our policy authority.
Yeah, I didn't realize that we were talking about. I realize now that we were talking about taking all those away, but those are great guidelines to have.
And we're giving them to them, is what we're doing.
Yeah.
All right.
Dr. Dyer, is there ever a time when you are working with procedures and you get a red flag or something that would cause you to bring it to the board to change it to policy?
I have not had an instance of that I can think of here or where I came from in another part of the state. So I would say at this point, no. But I wasn't superintendent in another part of the state. But as far as being here, not at this time.
But if you do have something that comes up and you feel like the procedure needs to be changed, is that just done in-house?
Procedures are done with administrative staff. So when we have our cabinet meetings or whatever, we see a procedure that needs to be updated, whether that be a form or whatever the case may be, then we do that, but only as it is prescribed by the board policy. So the board policy is what we go by for any procedure. So if you see, for example, if it's 6.400, I think that's what it says up there, then you would have procedure 6.44-1 or something like that would go through each of those district sections, and that's how policy and procedure interact.
So do we already have procedures for these?
We do. They're going through updates now, so we can make sure that we have everything updated, ready to go when we publish, but that's something we've been working on for the last 3 months, getting everything up to speed.
And then you'll be easily able to link the procedure with the policy and vice versa.
It's a little cumbersome right now, so we are working to update that and get it more modernized.
Would you say that these policies, such as the one for the health services that spells out those different, it could be any of them, but I guess my thought is TSBA suggesting moving them to procedures because they are essentially the procedures, not a policy?
I think if you were to ask them, that might be the way that they would describe that to you.
Do you feel like this basically reiterates your procedures as they are?
I think it would be very close. Dr. Elliott, any thoughts on that?
Yes, TSBA, when they emailed about this specific policy, they obviously outlined this example, but then they shared the example procedures to go with it. And the 4 procedures that are tied to that, 6.40 point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4 that we have added in our procedure handbook are the ones that were spelled out by TSBA in the language that would coincide with this policy. And so we have those in draft form, depending on how this goes, in order to update our procedures to match policy if that's the way we were to go.
Do they differ from our current procedures for these policies?
Most of the language is very similar. There are some changes, though. And we could get into those and look at those if you would like for us to know.
We'd like to hear that. Yeah.
Okay.
I would.
I'd like to see them.
So, no, I was just saying, this is a first reading, as described, and it's really a philosophical decision that I think the board has to make. And I'm not going to, of course, tell you which way to go on that. That's your prerogative. But we can, if you'd like, get those copies of those proposed procedures emailed to you all after the meeting if you want to either approve it on the first reading or take a hold on this. Whatever the board decides to do is fine by me on these. These aren't anything that's an absolute emergency we have to pass tonight in order to move forward or anything. But we're always going to bring TSBA recommendations to you to debate, and that's what's healthy for you. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and we just need to know from a staff point of view what you'd like us to do.
So if we were going to consider
Hold on for a second,
if we were going to consider the recommendation that Matthew's making about, making sure parents and guardians are notified if a counselor is requested to disclose confidential information, I mean, I think that's a good recommendation. We would leave it as policy and then put that in the policy, correct?
It could go in policy, or you could write that. You could request for us to put that in procedure either way.
Oh, okay.
But again, boards don't vote on procedures, but you can request that, and then I can look at that with staff and even run it through our board attorney.
I was going to say, I would like to see the procedures that, if you change them or whatever, before we vote on them.
So it seems like there's some uncertainty. So do you guys want to delay the first reading for 6.401, 6.406, and 6.407? Is that?
I think including in that 6.400.
Okay, 6.400.
I would make such a movement.
Okay, so we have a motion to delay 6.401, 6.406, and 6.407.
And 6.400.
Right. Yeah, at 6.400. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So 100% passed. We're going to delay first reading for those 4 policies to next month. Okay. All right. So we have 2 things to vote on. Okay. We need to vote on the change for 6.314, which is corporal punishment, and then we need to vote on the remaining first reading of policies. So let's start with 6.314. I want to entertain a motion to accept the policy presented on the screen there.
I move that we replace the existing 6.314 with the version on the screen.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that carries 100%. All right, so the remaining policies and first reading section on the agenda is 6.500. Special education students. We've already talked about that. Is there any more discussions? Okay. All in favor of accepting the remaining first reading of policies? Let's entertain a motion for that. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. All right. All right. So the next item on the agenda is board resolution.
Would you rather me do?
All right, so we have a resolution, and Dr. Dyer's going to read for us.
Okay.
Or are you good on your throat?
I'm good. Okay. So this is a draft board resolution regarding 775 Raider Drive. It says, whereas the Cleveland City Council and Mayor have demonstrated their commitment to the community in Cleveland City Schools by recently obtaining and deeding 775 Raider Drive, be it resolved that the members of the Cleveland City Schools Board of Education commend the City Council and Mayor for their work in creating a space that serves as a reminder of the community's dedication to public education. Be it further resolved that this body extends sincere thanks and appreciation to the City Council and Mayor for their efforts in creating a space that will be enjoyed by the entire community for years to come.
All right, so we have a resolution that's presented to us. Let's entertain a motion for that. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Passes 100%. Okay. All right, next on the agenda we have strategic plan focus.
All right.
Dr. Dyer.
Okay. Going to get an update on child nutrition.
Good afternoon. I have some fun updates to share from school nutrition. So our first action step in the strategic plan is to continue to provide an efficient and effective nutrition program. And so since the beginning of August, we have provided 463,849 breakfasts. Now that's just through, these numbers are just through April 21st. And a little over 600,000 lunches. So for our supper program, this is through March. We have provided over 24,000 meals, and that's for the after-school program. So any of our after-school programs that want to participate in the supper program can do that. We're excited that we're adding the football team starting today, and so we hope to add more sports teams maybe starting in the fall. We are continuing to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to 3 of our elementary schools 3 times a week, Candies Creek, Black Bower, and Arnold, and I have applied for other schools as well. So we'll find out about that this summer, about whether we can add those schools to that program. So one of our action steps was to conduct student, faculty, and community satisfaction surveys. And so we started with students, and we conducted them with 4th graders because we felt like 4th graders were old enough to read and answer the questions. 5th graders are on their way out, so they might not have anything to say, or who knows what they might say. And so we asked multiple choice questions to determine whether or not they had breakfast and lunch at school or brought from home, and then what they liked and what could be improved. And so, as you can imagine, if you have children, you know they loved pizza, nachos, and chicken nuggets. And so there were requests for new foods like chicken legs, which are already on the Spring 24 menu, so we are a step ahead there. They liked the variety and the ability to make choices, which is part of our offer versus serve. They like the nice lunch ladies, which made me a little bit proud. And improvements, when we ask what they would want to be improved, it was mostly preferences, like they wanted strawberry milk for lunch, or they wanted toppings on the pizza. But there were some quality issues, like maybe some things that were starting, we deal with some issues with temperature, like food quality going down, because it depends on the time that they come through the lunch line. A lot of times, the food has been there for a little bit and that they kind of complain about that, but all room for improvement there. And I have to say, one of the questions we asked them was, would you recommend to your friends to eat school lunch or breakfast? And they said, no, because I do not tell my friends what to do. So it was very comical going through this. We did these at 5 elementary schools. Obviously, we did not include Yates, and we did not include Arnold because of the issues with the kitchen that Arnold has had this year, so we didn't include that one. And so we also got responses like, it is free, it is hot, and I get to try new foods. And I think those 3 responses really show the impact that school nutrition has. They don't have to worry about paying for it because of our community eligibility. It's hot, they get a hot meal, and they get to try new things that they might not get to try at home. And so, as you know, Sodexo runs our middle and high school, and they conducted surveys as well there. They got like 1,300 responses back, I think. It's quite a bit of data that they're going through, and my Sodexo manager did tell me that they're going to get a report to the board and to Dr. Dyer, so that will be forthcoming. So our next step for our surveys is our faculty and staff survey that we're going to work on this summer and put out at the beginning of next year. And part of our strategic plan is to continue with our student interaction and participation. So our managers are going to continue offering themed meals and treats for holidays and special events. The picture of some fruit that was available at Thanksgiving, and then those are Easter eggs that some of our managers dyed for Easter this year. So that was a big hit with our students. And they're going to continue to offer taste testing. We had a couple of different items that were taste tested with some of our students. One was a pizza alternative, and one was a new fish product with a potential new vendor. So we appreciated student feedback for that. And they're going to continue with that student interaction by bringing their cafeterias to life. They do such a great job. If you've never been in one of our cafeterias around the holidays, you really need to stop by, because all of our schools, all of our managers do such a great job with decorating for the holidays. The students love it. If there's no decorations, they will ask, why haven't you decorated yet? So they want to know, and they want to see that. And then we had National School Lunch Week, is the picture on the far right. Peace, Love, and School Lunch was our theme for National School Lunch Week this year. And I also wanted to point out that School Lunch Hero Day is this Friday, May the 5th. So if anybody is near a cafeteria, just say thank you to our cafeteria workers, because they are lunch heroes. Some great news that we have to share is that we were awarded some grants this year. Cleveland City Schools Nutrition was awarded a little over $44,000 for an equipment grant. So we're going to be able to put that towards a new serving line at Stewart Elementary. So we're very excited about that. I had applied for 4 different grants, and we got that one. And we are, through some other funds, going to be able to purchase the other 3 pieces of equipment I applied for. So we're very excited about that. And then we also were awarded a $100,000 local food for schools grant. So we're very excited about that. We're going to be able to purchase, local for the purposes of this grant is within 400 miles. So that includes our milk, because it comes from Mayfield Dairy. And then several produce items are considered local as well. And then I've also applied for grants through the Dairy Alliance for some small refrigeration units and smoothie kits to be able to offer smoothies at breakfast, which when they've done that in the past, that's been a huge hit with the students. So we're very excited about that. So we'll see. We should find out about those grants this summer. And so you can follow us. I think last time I did tell you about our Twitter account, but now we have a Facebook account as well. So we are on Facebook at Cleveland City Schools Nutrition Program, if you want to give us a follow there. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Did you say you didn't survey Yates?
We did not, because we surveyed 4th graders, so we did not include Yates for that. Okay, anything else?
I understand the ovens at Yates are not working.
Yes, and we do have some funds to be able to move forward with that. So there's going to be requests for quotes going out for an oven for Yates. So just found that out today, actually.
I've had quite a few calls.
But they're still getting warm food.
Yes, they are still getting warm food. The manager there does a fantastic job, just as the manager at Arnold has done a fantastic job dealing with what she's had to deal with too. But they are getting a warm meal option every day. It's a good question. Anybody else?
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we're going to hear from our student representative, Arna Patel.
But first, I'm going to steal your thunder for just a second, because we have a special celebration, because this is your final meeting with us. So before we do that, and for those who are new on the board, Arna's done a great job this year. And every year we want to celebrate and take a moment to celebrate our student liaison and the work that, in this case, she has done to keep us up to speed with the student voice from the high school and so forth. So there are a few things that go along with being the student liaison. One, you do get a medal for graduation that you'll be able to wear. You also will get a wonderful, frameable, ready-to-go certificate. But most importantly, you get paid. So there's a little check for you and the work that you've done this year. So we want to make sure that we get these to you before you have the opportunity to leave us and go do other things. So is this good for you, Mom, here? So let's give you this. You go ahead and put that on if you want to. Or hold on to it, whichever is easier. And there's your certificate. And more importantly, there's your check. So thank you.
Oh, wait, here, let's show this. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Perfect. There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, I know that
She's a Yates student.
I know that Arna's going to give an update, but before you do that, I want to give the board members an opportunity to comment. Is that okay?
It's been fun. To read all these wonderful things about you and see you at that ceremony. That was nice. So it's been pleasant for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I just really want to express that I appreciate how you have embraced this and you have sought out opportunities to bring us information about all aspects of Cleveland High School. And I just really appreciate you being that inclusive of all of the students. And I think that you've spoken very well for them.
Thank you so much. I just want to say you've done a great job of sharing what's going on at the high school with us. And I love your smile, too.
Yeah, I think what Chris has said, how you talked about everything going on at school, it's been very informative. And wish you the best going forward.
Thank you so much.
I'm very proud of you. You've come a long way since that little kindergarten.
It's been fun watching you work, and I think one of the tough things of your job is probably getting information, good and bad, and trying to discern what is appropriate to bring here and how to bring it here, how to voice those concerns at various times. I think that will be something that will serve you for the rest of your life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you start, I just want to say thanks. You represented us well, too, and we appreciate that. But if you don't mind, before you, in the beginning or the end of your update, if you don't mind telling us what's next for you.
Yes. Okay, I'll start with that because I feel like I would forget if I didn't. Well, I am going to ETSU, East Tennessee State University. I got accepted into their Quillen Honor Scholars Program, which is a combination of ETSU's Honors College and Quillen, their medical school. And so it's kind of a partnership to help me become a more mindful medical student in the future. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm planning on majoring in health sciences and minoring in Spanish and business. But yeah, that's what's up for me. In terms of the Board of Education, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to make a difference like this. I worked hard to hopefully make a better foundation for the students that come after me, especially with the council clubs. Hopefully that helps bring out a lot more awareness for different types of things that go on in our school, because it's not always just one type of activity going on. We have so many different students, so many different events going on, and I really think that's important to share. So yeah, I'm glad that I got to spend my time here and meet all of y'all. So yeah. So the student update. So in terms of sports, boys soccer won its district regular season. They'll have a bye the first round and play the winner of Ray County or Bradley in the semifinals May 9th at 7 p.m. Baseball finished 4th in the regular season district and will host Howard High School in the first round of the district tournament
on the 3rd of May at 8 p.m. at Cleveland High School. In softball, they'll finish second in the district, and they'll have a meeting to decide when games will be played. Tennis, they have a game on May 5th. They're gonna begin district play for boys and girls. It's kind of sad though because May 5th is also our senior walk, so I'm kind of hoping they can make it to the senior walk, but either way, wish them luck. Track is May 9th. They will be at Franklin County High School competing in the sub-state. In other clubs and organizations, we have Science National Honor Society. Will have their last project of the year, a science day for the special education classes soon. They haven't found a date for that yet, but it's something to look forward to. The band concert is May 9th at 7. SGA is having their election for student body president and vice president. The spring musical, its last showing is today at 7 p.m. If you have 9 minutes if you wanted to make it today. It's been really successful. They sold out on, I think it was Friday. For the first time in 5 years, they had to set up some other chairs in the back to make room for all the people that came, which is amazing. It was a great showing. The CCS Awards program and choir musical are both on Thursday. And this Tuesday, tomorrow, is senior night at First Baptist, beginning at 6. And that's how we're going to wrap up the year.
All right. Thank you.
That's great.
All right,
I'd like to recognize her mother. She was such a great parent, and I want to thank her as well.
Yes.
I think it'd be nice if she kept us informed as to how things are going for you. CSU.
Yeah.
All right, so next on the agenda we have, do we have an update from the site committee?
Well, I was just going to share that we as a board had an opportunity, can't keep my week straight, last week or the week before, to be able to get together and have some preliminary input or discussion about the future for 775 Raider Drive building. Very excited about the opportunities there, and things are underway in that regard in terms of anything that can be done is being done, and we're moving forward as we can, and we'll keep apprised of what we will be doing in the planning process as we get there. And then the same day we were also able to walk over and tour the progress on the new addition to the entrance to the high school. And it's just going to be fantastic. I'm excited that the students are going to be able to get in and out of this building much more efficiently, more effectively, safer. The ventilation is going to be better. The lighting is better. They have recovery in case it starts raining. It's just going to be a really nice addition to the high school, and I'm excited for the students to be able to take advantage of that.
Thank you, Krista. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the legislative update. Do you have anything?
The only thing I have, and it just happened, I guess, this afternoon.
Yes.
If you haven't read your email from Dr. Dyer, Commissioner Schwinn is retiring as of July the 1st, and the governor has already appointed someone to take her place. Her last name is Rodriguez.
Reynolds, I believe.
Okay.
Reynolds.
Okay.
Was that Gonzalez Reynolds, I believe.
Okay. But anyway, there's someone already ready to step in when she steps out, so we'll just have to wait and see what all the political ramifications are.
Thanks, Ms. Carolyn. All right, so that is the last item on our agenda. Any more comments, questions from the board?
I did have a question about after the front is done, or CHS, I heard that we were thinking about adding a fence on the side of the school. Okay, I heard that going on, and I wasn't sure because there was safety concerns about students walking between the science wing and the East wing, and they shut that route right now because of the incidents in Nashville. So I was
Right.
wondering if we're...
There may be some improvements going there,
Okay.
but not a fence
Okay.
at this time.
I was just wondering.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question.
Any others? All right, so it is 6:55, and we're done with our meeting. So, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
So moved.